Alright everybody, welcome to episode 13 of Teh Tarik with Walid, and today I'm very pleased to have someone who is now a celebrity, public figure, Miss Liyana Dhamirah from Red Dot United. So it's okay when people are just coming in and they can watch the video later anyway. So Miss Liyana actually has written this fantastic book called Homeless. I have 5 copies, by the way, for 5 people who message me, who PM me or WhatsApp me why you deserve this book, or what would you want to get out of this book, and the best 5 I will choose. And so Miss Liyana is not involved, okay? So don't blame her if you're not chosen. So I'm the one who will be.
I don't know anything about this disclaimer on that. This is all his setup.
Alright, so thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, so you are now quite a public figure / celebrity, right?
You use that word often.
Yes. So, and it all started with this book, right? Which is heart-wrenching, by the way. It's a marvelous read. I really recommend anyone to read it. But this is your personal story, right? And you've also done a podcast with, what was that?
Quite a few podcasts. Which one?
The one where. Which ones have you done? Yeah, we can promote it.
Okay, one top of my head is Frankly My
Dear. Yeah, Frankly My Dear. That was the one. So please, if you want to listen to Miss Liyana's personal story, go to Frankly My Dear. So it was a really good podcast, and the interviewer was good as well. I don't know the interviewer, okay, so I'm not promoting her or anything, but it was.
Shout out to her, though.
Yeah, shout out to her. So it was a really good podcast about her personal story. But today is not just about her personal story. Today is about her political story and her political journey. So I just thought of this question. I was wondering, do you think the publisher would have published Homeless if you were already an opposition party member?
Who's to say that? Huh? Who would know? But one thing I know for sure is that even pushing this particular book out, or the manuscript back then, right, was quite an uphill task, because the topic in itself is pretty sensitive, right? And we wrote in or sent over the manuscript to a couple of publishers. A few came up to us saying that the topic is sensitive, or they do not have the resources to take this on and even to put it into a book. And I was there at a point where I was saying that, oh, thank you for being honest with me. Right. I don't know why you call yourself a publisher.
What were their concerns?
Their concerns is the sensitive topic. That is one that surfaces a lot.
So they are afraid that the government would be unhappy, is it?
I don't know. They didn't delve too much into detail on that spectrum, but I would say that they are just not comfortable enough with just the title in itself. And just the title alone, I need to put my foot down and say that, hey, I want this title to be out there in front of the book, and that is something which Epigram was reserved in doing previously. They were trying to coax me into using other titles and all that, but there's a few. I don't remember. But one thing I remember was that I needed to pinpoint the main content, the main gist of this story, and there's no other words that I can think of other than homeless. And of course, when that happens, right? People say, okay, not people. I wouldn't quote anyone. But the narrative back then is such as that there were no homeless people around, right? And there is such thing as displaced families. Right. And I was like, what in the world is displaced families?
Right. Euphemism.
Yeah, so that's that. So back to your question, when you asked me, would Epigram even publish this after I become a politician or be involved in a political space? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that.
Right.
But it's still a journey in getting the book out.
Right. Okay. So and thank you for writing this. Right. So let's get to that, and it's related to my earlier question. Why politics to achieve whatever you want to achieve, right? Because you were already a famous author, and now you are an award-winning author, and don't you think being in politics sorts of stains a person, because now everything you say, right, will be, oh, this is it. Everything you say will be, oh, there's a political agenda. Of course, there's a political agenda, right? Because that's what politicians are supposed to do. They're supposed to put forward an agenda. But do you think there will be less buy-in from people? So why not through civil society? Why the political and electoral scene?
Why through that? Okay, the thing is that first I would like to address is the perception that we have, right? One thing for sure is, when you talk about, even just now as I reach here, and then we were having a short discussion, right? And then you were asking me if since I become a politician and all that kind of stuff, and I did mention to you that I don't even know if I can still grasp the word about being a politician, right? That is also because for me, what I saw in the public space is that being a politician is not that positive, and people doesn't have the positive inclination or thinking around it, as what you've already mentioned earlier. So I would like to change that, and I would like to mention that, perspective is one. You can have your opinions, you can have your thinking, you can have your own judgment, but there's another thing about looking at politics in a different manner, because at the end of the day, what is politics to you? What is politics to you, Walid?
Well, politics ultimately is the struggle for power.
To you.
Is there another definition? Ultimately, it's about the attainment and distribution of power.
Attainment and distribution power. That's interesting. Politics to me. Are you going to ask me that
question? No.
Can I ask that question myself?
Sure. So what is politics to you? Yeah.
So politics to me is everyday life. It's like, the food that you eat that has been imported, that is politics. Politics to me is also what I can get to study in school, or what my kids get to study in school. Politics to me is also how much is the price of the car that I can buy in the future, right? So all of that's our politics. And it's almost to the nearest form of politics is personal for me. It's like the everyday to-day life that gets me going.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how politics.
So that's also the maxim of feminism, right? The personal is a political, or the political is personal. And I definitely agree with whatever you just said. Politics permeates every single aspect of our lives, right? But don't you think you could achieve the advocacy of policies, for instance, that you're interested in, like your children's education, through civil society or through AWARE, which you're already doing anyway?
Okay. Well, if you're looking for other avenues, right, of course, like what you've already mentioned, or other people can even go and do that through arts, through education, right? Or even through business. If you were to read my book, right, you will know that after I got out of homelessness, I kind of like stumbled or threw myself into entrepreneurship, right? And I am still an entrepreneur now, even today, as I do my activist work, as I got involved in politics and being a part of RDU. So for me, it's more of what is someone comfortable to be in. So for myself, it's, just because the flow of my life has led me this way. And I'm comfortable in, advocating, I'm comfortable in raising up issues this way and at this certain level. So why not, right? Why do we need to refrain ourselves? And the most important thing, like for anyone at all, to be involved in any work that you do, or, even to like for yourself, studying, teaching, and all that, right? In terms of policy making and all, is for you to find what is the best, what's the best and what's the comfortable level that you can be to contribute in any way that you are doing right now in politics.
So for you, politics is something that you can genuinely contribute.
Yeah, for me.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. I like that answer. And so moving on, I mean, it's related. When the hustings were going on, someone who was a fan of your book, a fan of yourself, he or she told me that he or she is a huge fan of yours, but he or she felt that you had joined the wrong party. So the question I have for you, Liyana, is did you join the wrong party?
before I answer the question, can I ask you, what's the right party?
Right, okay, so the right party, there are a few things, right, which would define the right party. But first of all, is a party which aligns with your values. And second of all, amongst the parties which align with your values, a party that can win.
So what are the party who, in your opinion, have won in the past election?
Right, so Workers' Party has won.
Okay.
I mean, if you're talking about the opposition, of course,
we're talking about the right party in terms of your...
Yeah, I mean, so, of course, the Workers' Party is the right party for some people, if it aligns with your values, right? Or even the SDP, even though they have not won, but I believe SDP's presence in the political arena actually changes things because SDP has a clear ideology, right? So the other parties, what do you think? Is there?
It's interesting you didn't raise about PAP though. PAP is
I assume because you want to join the opposition.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I assume, but of course, if now you want to declare your allegiance to the PAP, it's okay also.
How is that even declaring allegiance?
So I was thinking about the opposition parties because I assume that's where you are inclined toward.
Okay. So, back to what you've already relayed to me just now, right? If you're talking about Workers' Party as being the right party, how do you determine that as right? Okay, that you already elaborate that to a sense. But if you were to look at the past election, they filtered like how many candidates? Like 30 around there, right? And if you were to look like how many has been, successfully placed in Parliament or gain a seat in Parliament, it's like plus minus 33% of them, like out of the candidate that they feel, right? So if you're talking about the right party in terms of, electoral success, right? Electoral political success will be PB. We're not talking about opposition like, I don't know, like, we're not talking about that. So if you're talking just about electoral politics success, right, in terms of percentage, and this is how I see whether it's the right party or not, will be the PUP, because they have fielded like 90 odd over candidates, and then they managed to put in like 80 plus over percentage of them in Parliament. So if you're talking about the right party, to me will be that, in that sense, in that context. And
just about winning. Right?
Yeah, just about winning, and just about getting there and being the right party per se. But for me, because I was once homeless, right, and by definition from the system will be that I'm a failure, right?
Is it? Do you think so? Do you think?
Well, if you go by the system, it is deemed as a failure, like going by the system that we have right now in place. And because of that, and since I am not, I'm not molded into the usual molds of society or the molds of the system, I see success and failure in a different manner, right? And if that means that me being a part of an organization which helps to, shape and mold the policies or, the proposals for policies, for me, I find that as a success. So it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be, like an organization in itself. It depends on what are the things that you do continuously.
So was it because you, if I understand you, because RDU was starting and you were able to really shape RDU, you're one of the pioneer members of RDU, and therefore you get to lay the foundations for RDU?
It could be it. You put that in.
No, because you say you get to affect that, and I think that's a fair answer. That's a fair answer, and.
But I think you are getting rightly there somewhere, because if you were to ask me if I joined a party for RDU, it doesn't seem to me that I joined the party. I was part of the co-founder.
Right, okay.
So it kind of gave in a different flavor, different contribution to it. But at the same time, on top of it all, the people that I work with together, and this ties in back to what you mentioned earlier on just now, was the values, right? The values that keep me going and saying, hey, my values are aligned with these people, so henceforth that I can work together with them.
By the way, if you read Homeless, I think you will have a better idea as well why Miss Liyana eventually decided to join RDU, because Mr. Ravi Philemon plays an important part in this book.
One of the
and Rolo as well.
And through, I would say that we still keep in touch on and off.
Right. So
but primarily,
he featured in the book as well.
Yes,
Right?
of course. They are the two main. They are the two main person who have helped, like pull me out of my rock bottom.
Right. So I mean, they have done a lot for Miss Liyana, and I think it's quite natural. In fact, I would judge you a little if Ravi called you and you didn't join RDU.
Oh really? You judge me? I am my own woman, okay? You would judge me because I said no. I have the right to say no.
Actually, I would. What you are doing, standing in an election, is already commendable. Standing in election for the opposition is even more amazing. Standing in an election for the opposition against SM Tharman, wow, that's a different level. And so that's what I wanted to get to next. Jurong GRC, it's a suicide mission, right? Because there was no chance of winning. I don't know. You can even put some PAP ministers against SM Tharman and SM Tharman would win, right? So why did you guys contest in Jurong GRC other than the fact that there was nobody else who wanted to go to Jurong GRC? Is it out of convenience or is it out of conviction that you guys contested in Jurong GRC?
Kind of like answer your question there actually just now.
Okay.
Which is, you asked, is it out of convenience or conviction, right? And you mentioned also that apart from the fact that there are no other people who are contesting that particular constituency, so we know that there are no other opposition going to contest there because it's one of the strongest. You may call it a suicide mission. For us, we felt much more compelled after knowing that no party is going to contest over there, as we would rather form, even being like 2 weeks old. Oh yeah, this I need to mention. When GE 2020 came, we Red Dot United are just 2 weeks old back then. And a 2 weeks old party, call it a suicide mission or whatever it may be, that we do know the reality of the fact is that we are not going to send anyone in parliament being a 2 weeks old party, because we are nobody, right? Nobody know us. We do not have the exposure yet. However, we felt compelled to contest over there, form a team, and put ourselves to contest in that constituency, was because of giving the voters over there a choice and a chance for them to voice out their voice in a manner of their votes. That's one. And secondly, we would rather do that rather than making that particular constituency a walkover. That would be a wasted chance and a wasted overall. We would rather be called the suicide squad to go there rather than it's a walkover there.
Right.
So be.
Right. So you guys knew that you guys were not going to win, or was there about 5% chance that you were thinking in your?
I would say that in fiction world, we would be like, oh, there could be 49.9, how many other percent that we could get it, or we could be like a 50 point blah 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 percent that we can get.
But I mean, you would, on the morning itself of polling day, how do you feel? Or maybe when the results came in, were you disappointed or?
Actually, when the results came in, we were much more surprised that not only we are able to, of course, we are able to collect back our deposit, right? But not only that, what we thought of, like maybe a 20% around there or 21%, at least better than the past election and the past party that contested in that constituency, we got more.
Right.
So that was a surprise for us, and being a 2-week-old party at that point of time, definitely. So it was a surprise for us. Right. But that said too, that getting into election, we will, of course, we are not prepared to we are prepared not to contest in the first place, right? But we contested, however, because we do not want it to be a walkover, and we know that no other party are contesting there. So even to contest, 2 weeks old party, putting a 5-man person in the to for the GRC, raising that deposit, like what, 70k around there. Right. It is a Herculean effort,
Right.
Yeah. So for us, it's like
the fact that you managed to do that and got back the deposit, that's already a victory for you guys, right? All right, okay. And I mean, you can see the emotion in her as she's recounting, the electoral experience, and I'm sure it was an amazing experience. No sleep throughout the 2 weeks.
Oh wow, it is a journey. That 9 days in itself was like a pure, whatever that you study in school or whatever that you face in life, right, couldn't prepare you for that 9 days.
And this is coming from a person who was homeless.
Yes, coming from me still, yeah.
From a person who was homeless before, yet that couldn't prepare her for election.
Yes, because that 9 days in itself really is intense. It's a very intense period. The whole journey in itself, and being a small party to nobody knowing who we are, getting I'm used to getting rejections, right? But getting rejections right in front of your face, that's like, totally
such as
if we were to just introduce ourselves to any of the residents in public, right? They'll be like, no, like really with no in front of your face.
Really?
Wow.
That. Wow.
Yeah. So that is intense.
Wow.
Like you will get it in front of your face. Other than that will be the preparations. We do not have teleprompter and all that kind of,
right.
savvy things, right? And so fancy, like what my children will call it. So we don't have all that fancy stuff, and we will need to make do with whatever that we have. So that is itself adding on to the intense experience and the schedule. Don't remind me. I need to wake up at 3 a.m. every single day. So during that particular 9 days, I have like 1-2 hours of sleep.
Wow.
And that juggle with my 4 children and have a less than 1-year-old baby as well during the election period. So it was a lot. Yeah.
Wow.
Of course, being homeless.
So wow. Okay. I mean that's quite a sobering thought. So thank you for that. So are you guys going to stay in Jurong, because you guys are still walking the ground, I see? So which is now, I think now nobody can make the accusation that you only see the opposition during elections.
Yes.
I think even in the past that was slightly unfair, but now that's completely unfair, because I see almost every opposition party do that, except in my area, I've never seen the opposition party.
Are you saying that those shall not be named?
In my area, no. But I mean, I see Workers' Party does this all the time, SDP does this all the time, even RDU.
Yes, we do. So we are planning our next door-to-door home visits as well. Previously, before the year end, we did during lake cleanup. It will look very nice and clean on the outside or on the surface, right? Pristine, clear.
It is nice. Jurong Lake, I think, is one of the few things that is actually nice in the West.
That's one of the few things, yeah. But if you were to look deeper, right? I mean, when we are doing the Jurong Lake cleanup, we got like 10 bags of trash.
Wow.
From your naked eye, you will see that
it's nothing.
so
right.
nice, right? But we can collect 10 bags of trash.
So that was when was it?
That was in December. Yeah, before the year end.
Okay,
December 2020.
Right.
So we're still here to stay.
Right. So.
Hey, Jerome.
Okay. So at the risk of let's move on. At the risk of relitigating an issue which has been discussed a lot lately, I just wanted your own personal take on this. Did you ever feel, as you were campaigning, that your race or your gender, your race and or your gender mattered? Did that ever come up? So basically, there are two questions. Do you feel did your race matter? Do you feel that? And did your gender matter? And the fact that you also put on the hijab, I mean, that's another compound.
So many
levels. So many levels. Yeah.
So many levels to go through.
Yeah.
I would say that I would be lying if I say that it doesn't impact or it doesn't constitute any discrimination is such a strong word still now.
Reaction. So it affected people's reaction.
Yeah, could be. Did
you feel that throughout? Or more of your race or your gender, you think, or both?
It's hard to point out. Honestly, it's hard to point out because I have multi-level
right.
multi-level of race layers here, so it's hard to point out which one. However, I would be like to say that no, right, during the election, during that particular campaigning in itself. However, right, even said that we have been conditioned since we were young on the CMIO policy, or Chinese, Malay, Indian, others policy, and it has been taught to us for 60 years already from PAP. Now, looking at that factor alone, right, with that particular policy alone, we have to see that we are given that since birth. Like when a baby comes out, like when your son was born, you need to give them a race, right? And then when you want to, when you're studying in school, the language that you need to take is depending on your race too. When you want to buy a HDB flat, then also your race is an important part, right? I'm not saying that the race, religion, and language is not important here, but we will need to see ourselves as Singaporean now. First, right? And hence that policy, the CMIO policy, will need to be relooked. 60 years. Come on, guys. I mean,
so you are saying that, okay, so I agree with you that we need to see ourselves as Singaporean, right? But the not discrimination, but whatever it is, advantage, right, can also play out on multiple levels, right? Because they can see you as a Singaporean, but they will also see you as a Malay or as an Indian, as a Chinese, right? Partly because the CMIO model has been so ingrained in us, right? So you are actually saying that we should do away with the CMIO model, and then we can
see us as Singaporeans. Why do we even need to? Why do we even need to do that divide and continuing it further?
Do you think if we remove the CMIO model, people would stop judging others by their race?
Well, I wouldn't say that we can stop, right? Individually, we have our own biases. We have our own things that has been ingrained in us since young. I wouldn't say that I can stop, but at least we can lead by example in a way. And at least we can lead in a way where, hey, let's look at the last election. There's a lot of minority being placed from the opposition side, right? And if you were to just look into the factor of, somebody said that, Singapore is not ready for a Indian PM, right, in a way.
Some people say. Somebody.
Okay, some people say, right? Some people say. I don't know based on what fact. I can't see any of the facts to that note. So, if you were to just look at that and you compare it with our past election, where there are more minorities being filtered into the election by the opposition side, that goes to show something. That goes to show how we lead in a way where, all the CMIO shouldn't be applying, wouldn't be applicable in today's day already. That is one. And then touching back on that Indian PM thingy, right? Some people say...
Do you want SM Tharman to be the PM?
I've actually recorded one video. you can do your own research, that I was saying, let's do Tharman for president, and then rule us into parliament. Okay, that was one of our campaigning tactics also. But yeah, he's one of our favorite. For me,
you did say that in the podcast. He's
really?
You did say.
So I'm very honest. Okay,
you say you really like him.
Yeah. But then again, when we are touching back on that note in itself, that Singapore is not ready for Indian PM, right? I want to take it a step further, right? Are we ready for a woman PM? Hey, if you look at the past election for RDU, we have 4 women already ready to be fielded, to be contested, but they back up.
You think it's harder for a female to be PM than for a minority to be PM? What do you think? In terms of public perception, what do you think?
I wouldn't jump to conclusions. I wouldn't assume. For me, let the data speak for itself. So all of these, let the ground tell you why and when and how and what they are comfortable with.
And I think the data is quite clear in terms of SM Tharman always being the most popular, electorally at least.
And yet,
right? So, and this is somebody who contested against SM Tharman, and she's essentially endorsing SM Tharman as PM.
No, the thing is that we are looking at the reality of the fact.
Right.
Okay, if I were to use systemic oppression, that is quite a heavy word here. However, if you're talking about minority and then not given an equal playing field, and even just ruling out things and saying that Singapore is not ready for Indian.
Right. So what I would say is, I think there's some truth in that statement, right? That some Singaporeans are not ready for a non-Chinese prime minister.
How do you know that?
Wait. So I think based on what DPM Heng said in terms of his conversations with older Singaporeans, and also according to some IPS surveys, it says that race matter. However, that's a generic Chinese versus generic. I think if you say SM Tharman versus anybody else, I'm quite confident that most Singaporeans would say yes. That's the first thing. And second thing, even if Singaporeans say something, right, there's no reason for the PAP to actually just follow the opinion of some Singaporeans, right? Even if some Singaporeans are not ready, if he's the best, he's the best.
And that's contradicting too.
I agree.
Because in that context, they want to follow
right, exactly.
way, but then in other.
No, exactly, because this is not a government that this is a government that prides itself in leading and not following.
Exactly.
So that I mean, there are some inconsistencies, shall we say? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything else you want to say about gender or race?
I think basically I touched that all.
Okay, right. Okay,
but
so let's move on, and this is the final question I have. And if anybody has any question, we can. It's already 31 minutes already, so we can take some questions. At about 40-ish. 40.
Did I go over the time?
No. We are good. We are good. So if WP or SDP calls you tomorrow, right? If Dr. Chi or Mr. Pritam Singh calls you, would you and ask you to leave Mr. Ravi and RDU, would you do that and join them?
Leave Mr. Ravi and RDU.
Leave RDU, okay, leave RDU.
What sort of question is that in this place? Okay, when you say call, it's just in that manner.
No, call you to join them. Yeah,
to join them.
To join them, yeah.
Here's the thing, right? People think politics is like business in a way where people poach. Something. There's a thing in the culture of business of hiring where people will poach. There's headhunters and all that. So unfortunately, that doesn't exist in politics, and doesn't exist especially in the opposition field. I don't hear any other opposition party were to go around and poach people to join the party.
That's interesting, because Professor Tambaya said that he was actually asked by Mr. Pritam Singh when he was here. That was the first time he revealed it, by the way. So, but let's say, so assuming I agree it doesn't happen a lot, but
maybe it doesn't happen to me.
No.
Because I'm a nobody, right?
Yet, hasn't happened yet. So, let's say it does happen. You are approached. Would you say yes? Because there is something, there is a point behind this question, basically.
Point? Are you
there is a point.
something?
No, I will tell after you answer. Yeah. But what would your answer be if they called you?
I would. I would say that where I am right now and what I'm seeing in the near future, I'm comfortable. And not saying that I'm comfortable by not being uncomfortable like that, right? But I'm comfortable in going with RDU and having the people around here, the people in RDU in itself, who are passionate about doing the right things, regardless whether they get elected in or not, right? So that is one. Secondly, it's not about just Mr. Ravi alone, like just leave Mr. Ravi or RDU. The reason why I joined RDU is not, of course.
Yeah, of course. But it's one of the reasons, right? Not the main reason. It's because he asked you, right? And
yeah, he asked, but he's not a decision factor that I made
not
to
at
join.
all. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not because that he asked. Yeah,
okay.
It's because of the values that I am aligned with and the people that I got to know in RDU.
Right.
I said no to him for other projects too. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I've said no to him for other things also. So that's that. So if you were to ask me if other parties were to call me up and ask, Liyana, would you join blah 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 ABC or something like that, right? I would say, I'm sorry, I'm here in RDU and I believe that we are towards making a positive change here, and I will stay.
I see.
So what is it that you say that you want to say after I answer?
No, because for me, right, there's no reason for any Singaporean, whether it's a voter or whether it's a candidate, to be loyal to any party. Because ultimately what you are loyal to is the voters, and you are loyal to values. So, I mean, for me, if somebody asks, for instance, some politicians, they switch between parties, I say, why not? Why not?
Yeah.
Power to
Why
them.
not?
I say,
Yeah.
they should, as long as they believe that a party has abandoned the values that they felt they were aligned to, then that person should live. There's no reason, because we should not have overwhelming loyalty to any single party, and that includes the candidates as well. So that's why I wanted to ask whether, if SDP calls and then you say, okay, Dr. Chi, here we go. Okay, so you're not closing the door, basically.
I wouldn't say that I'm not closing the door. I'm saying yes, or I was
I
just going to jump the
okay.
ship.
She's not. Okay, she's comfortable with RDU.
Yes,
okay.
and I'm not saying that I'm a bit loyal to just one
Right.
party or just one thing. The most important thing is, Singaporeans, the values, and what I'm fighting for.
Right. Okay. Good. Yeah. I mean, I like that answer a lot. So my
you don't need to like my answer.
I'm just saying, if I do, yeah. So other than SM Tharman, right? Who is your favorite PAP politician?
That's quite a tough one. I don't know. That's very tough.
Really? All the way. Politicians, you cannot think of one that you actually like.
It's quite tough. Okay, why I say it's tough is because I have brushes and I have met a couple of them, right? And for me, what and how you conduct yourself behind the scenes, away from public eye, tells a lot about you.
Absolutely.
Yourself, right?
In public, anybody can be nice.
Exactly.
Yeah, anybody can be
so
nice.
there you go. That's my answer.
Wow. So, what about the ones that you haven't met, and who do you think you have a good impression of, or you think you can get along well with them?
Okay, this I can answer you in this way. Those who I haven't met, nobody have jumped in my radar so far that I lie, or they have done something which close to what I fight for. That is one. Secondly, those who I have met, like what I mentioned just now, their how they conduct themselves right away from the public eye is a factor in itself that makes me this.
Right.
I used to look up to you, but now, right?
Yeah.
So the only person that I would still say in PB who is my favorite is just SM Tharman.
Wow.
Yeah.
Such a bold assertion.
I mean, I'm
honest.
honest.
Yeah, honest. I mean,
honest,
I love the honesty. So, who's your favorite female politician in Singapore, other than yourself?
Other than myself, favorite female politician. I know one is your favorite lah.
That's my favorite politician, not my favorite female. That's my favorite politician.
I know that because you kind of stalked
My wife just
her.
gave me the side eye. Yeah, I knew it.
Did I hit a nerve there?
Yeah.
So, I think for me, I could be biased here. Yeah, I could be biased because she's the youngest. And she happens to be a friend too, so I could be biased.
Of course, everyone is biased. It's fine. Yeah.
Other than that,
Are you saying who? Michelle? Or is it?
who are you referring to?
No, I thought it was Michelle that you were saying.
Other than that,
I don't know.
nothing. Nobody else.
No, that because you're saying your friend. I don't know who else is it. Is it Raisa or?
Yeah, I would say that Raisa will be one of my favorite. Because she's the youngest and she happens to be a friend too, right? So that's why I say it could be biased in that context. And I know her way before we both stepped into politics.
Okay.
At the same time.
Right. Okay. Alright, so is there anything else you would like to say that people need to know you, Liyana Dhamirah, the politician, more than just beyond your book and beyond your story, right? Also, Haikal was just saying, is it Tan Wu Ming who's your favorite politician? But
actually, we didn't have any questions so far, right?
Yeah. They were all just saying thank you and all of that.
I see a lot of hearts. Thank you for tuning in, guys.
Yes. So, is there anything else that you would want to say so that people know you, Liyana Dhamirah, the politician, more than just the author of Homeless?
Why would you say Liyana Dhamirah, the politician, more than the author?
Because this is a show about politicians. And I think there's also this this tendency by politicians to minimize the politician side of them, and I think we should embrace it.
I have to embrace that,
Yeah.
and I have to lead it as well, because I said that there needs to be a more positive, inclinations towards being a politician, right?
Right, exactly.
So yeah, there you go. Liyana Dhamirah is someone who is positive, and I'm a politician too.
Okay.
There you go.
Right. Okay.
Do you want that?
So generally politicians are not, you think? Or So just now when you said that politicians in public, you mean they're somebody else than in private. That's the general impression people actually have, right, of politicians?
Yes.
Yeah, and so it turns out that it's true from your experiences?
Well, whatever that we see can differ when we meet and we experience. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. It's a very subtle way of answering the question. Yeah. But ultimately, voters can only judge by what we see and not by what.
Well, voters can judge. At the same time, voters can be involved. That is why active citizenry is very important, right? And as what I mentioned also earlier, you can be involved in any way possible to be a part of the political space, like in education, in arts, or whatever it is. Choose whatever that you are comfortable in. And that said too, I lose my train of thoughts. That said too, you will need to really don't just only judge people from the get-go. Volunteer, get a chance to experience.
But most Singaporeans have no time and energy to invest in politics, right?
And if something is that important to someone, they will make time.
I agree. I mean, and let's end off on that pearl of wisdom, because it's really, and whether you care about politics cares about you. So everybody needs to be involved and everybody needs to know. And anyway, if you are watching this, you are probably aware and you are interested in politics. So thank you so much, Miss Liyana, and please get this book, and for the 5 lucky people, you will hear from me, and if you don't, I'm sorry. Okay, bye-bye everybody.
Thank you.